The Flash Season 8 began with a 5-episode crossover event called the Armageddon. Now, unlike a typical Arrowverse crossover, this event mostly revolved around the Flash, his powers, their consequences, and what would happen if he ever lost control. In this video, I will be reviewing the entire event, and there will be spoilers ahead. So if you want to watch Armageddon first without being spoiled, then do not watch this video any further, because there are major spoilers ahead. Well, with that out of the way, let's begin with a quick rundown of the plot. Right from the beginning, we are shown that the Flash has truly embraced his powers, his speed, and he is far more confident than he used to be in whatever he does. The next day, at a technical convention, Barry Allen, aka The Flash, encounters a being called Despero, and almost immediately it's pretty clear that Despero wants to kill Barry. When Barry asks why, Despero says that he is coming from the year 2031, and in that time the Flash caused a catastrophic event which destroyed the whole planet. Basically, Despero has come 10 years back in time to kill Barry before that ever happens. Now, the Flash tries to assure him that he would never turn his back on anything that he has ever stood for. Now, as many of you know, that Despero is a telepath, so he could sense that Barry was a hero and he was not lying. But he was still not convinced. After all, he had witnessed the Armageddon in 2031. So Despero gives the Flash a week's time to prove his innocence. And if he fails, then Despero would kill him without any hesitation. After this ultimatum, Team Flash comes together and starts to develop theories on what exactly can happen which would make Barry destroy the whole world. Now this is where things start getting upside down. Barry finds out that he has been suspended from his job as a CSI because some recent evidence was found suggesting that he was linked to a murder case. Now, as if suddenly losing his job was not enough, authorities stormed in Star Labs because the place had become dangerously radioactive. Since Star Labs also acts as the Flash's base, he and his team had to erase every details, files, and data related to the Flash or any metahuman criminals before Star Labs was sealed up. Barry Allen's world had already turned topsy-turvy, but it became even worse when he found out in the midst of a conversation that Detective Joe West, who practically raised Barry and was also his father-in-law, had died quite some time back. And even though the Flash had lost his father figure, Barry does not remember anything about it. Not the funeral, which apparently he attended, not the obituary, which apparently he wrote, and not even the simple fact that Joe had died. The final nail in the coffin was when an incident was reported on live TV where the Flash frantically and openly attacked ordinary citizens with the intent to kill for no reason at all. Now, this convinced Barry that he has lost his mind. All the experiences he had in alternate timelines and different worlds, all the friends that he had lost, but he could never share with anyone because only he remembers them, all of that might finally have been enough to crack his mind. Believing that he had become mad, the Flash rushed to the Hall of Justice and invoked the Injustice Protocol. Now, this is basically a contingency plan put in place in case some hero becomes rogue or poses a threat to the society. Black Lightning was called in order to help Barry cut off his connection to the Speed Force. However, Iris did not think that his husband had become mad, and with the help of Dion, who is the avatar of the Still Force, he conducted her own investigation. She found out that at the train station where Joe had apparently died, there are traces of the negative Still Force and tachyon particles, evidences of time travel and altering the timeline itself. Turns out even Black Lightning was hesitant to cut off Barry's connection to the Speed Force completely. So, in light of the new possibility that someone may have messed up the timeline they are currently living in, Barry traveled to the point in time where this source of change was present. Now, turns out this was the year 2031. He arrived at a party where he saw that there were many of his friends, including the entire Team Flash. Batwoman and even the Atom was present. And the hosts of this party were Iris West and her husband, the Flash. But it was not future Barry Allen, it was Eobard Thawne. And when they all realized that Barry had come there, they identified him as a threat and a criminal. In an effort to prove himself the Flash, Barry put on his suit. And suddenly it was yellow in color with red boots, and the insignia on his chest was a red lightning bolt with a black background. Barry Allen had become the infamous time-traveling mass murderer Reverse Flash. Thawne had changed the present by changing little past events and carefully constructing the perfect timeline where he was married to Iris West and was struck by the lightning bolt and had become the Flash, while Barry was the Reverse Flash. He had essentially taken Barry's life and made it his own. At the end of season 7, it was clear that the Flash had become a lot faster than the Reverse Flash. Such was the difference in their power at that time that Thawne posed no threat to Barry in a pure combat. So when he could not defeat the Flash, he became the Flash. Eobard had also killed Barry as a child, and it was only a matter of hours before this new reverse Flashpoint timeline would solidify as the prime timeline, and Barry would simply be wiped off existence. Eobard would have killed Barry in this time too, but he was able to escape from there. He went into the city, hiding and trying to find a way back home and to reset the timeline, while Eobard tried to search for him, but it was difficult to find him on account of his reduced speed and low energy tachyon signature. Barry ultimately took the help of Damien Dark, an ally of the Reverse Flash of this timeline, which is ironically himself, and a magical artifact called the Time Stone. With these, Barry created enough speed to run through time, while Eobard chased him all over the world. This race of two speedsters created enough energy to cause a combination of hundreds of earthquakes, tsunamis, and volcanoes, which essentially caused an extinction level event and basically shook the earth. Now, this was the Armageddon that Despero was talking about. But the irony is that Barry had to create this in order to save the world. When Barry and Eobard had built up enough speed to open up a time portal, Barry basically went in and undid what the Reverse Flash had done to finally restore the timeline to its original state. And since Barry also used what is known as the Time Stone to do this, all variations of this timeline were erased, which basically meant that there was only one timeline where Barry Allen became the Flash and married Iris. And as of now, no other variance exists. Barry was finally able to prove to Despero that it was Eobard Thawne all along who had changed the past to ultimately create the Armageddon. This event, however, was far from over because Eobard, who was right behind Barry Allen, had run back from the year 2031 to 2021. But he came back in this present time as a paradox, a remnant of a non-existent timeline, which meant that once this prime timeline solidified, he would be erased from existence, just like how Barry would have in the Reverse Flashpoint. Eobard asked Barry to help him, and he also had the balls to clearly state that once he is saved, he would go back to his life's work, which is trying to kill the Flash. Now, after imprisoning Reverse Flash, Team Flash had a lot to discuss, because most of them wanted to let Eobard die, and for good reason too. However, they ultimately decided to be the hero and try to save him. Now, this decision obviously angered Despero, and he took matters into his own hands. He decided that Eobard was too big a threat to keep alive, and the Flash was too weak to do what's necessary. So he concentrated enough energy to deliver one single blast, which would blow away the entire city with Eobard in it. So basically, Despero's version of a Gallic gun. The Flash, however, stopped him and saved Eobard. But here's the twist. To prevent the timeline itself from removing Thawne entirely, the Flash had to cut off his connection to the negative speed force. The Reverse Flash was still technically alive, but he had no speed at all, which, according to him, was nothing short of living in hell. The event ends with a party of the heroes after saving the day and undoing the reverse flashpoint. But there is a cliffhanger. Bart and Nora Allen, Barry and Iris's future son and daughter, mysteriously appeared in a photo taken back in 2014. Now, personally, I was shocked to see this because after that god awful season 7, I never thought that the show could ever bounce back, but it did. Now, not only does Armageddon have a tight and suspenseful story, it almost feels like a separate 5-part live action graphic novel. It really does justice to the character of the Flash, celebrating both its heroism, its absurdity, and its groundedness. Now, I know that the budget of The Flash is very, very low, especially compared to other TV shows, and this often shows very obviously in the substandard CGI. But frankly, Zoic Studios did a really good job with what limited budget and time they had. You see, Despero's full CGI body looks very clean to me, and the Flash's running scenes and camera movements were very good too. Every actor involved in key places performed very well, not just the leads. And I kind of forgot how good Grant Gustin was, but this event nailed that to my head. Now, Arrowverse never really had a bad crossover event, but Armageddon is definitely one of the best of the bunch. In fact, I would put it just after Crisis on Infinite Earths in terms of quality. Now, for its brisk and fast paced story with cool character moments, I will give Armageddon a 4 out of 5 stars, and I will definitely recommend it to anyone who wants to enjoy a few hours of Flash goodness. I will see you all in the next video. Till then, stay safe and thanks for watching.